we can't let the mafia ignore us into like doing nothing, because they will win because they ignored us. Like, they'll stay in charge of the political parties. They'll stay in charge of like investigating COVID-19 when they did COVID-19. They'll stay in charge of a lot of things, and it's not safe for people that are not mafia. I've been talking about the issue with the Great Salt Lake shrinking, where it used to be 3,300 square miles, and now it's under 1,000. And like when you look at it on the map, you can see it. And you can also see the little lakes that have accumulated as a result of that thing having water evaporate out of it and hitting the mountains, and then the mountains having so much snow. Like I was looking at it, and Salt Lake City has 500 inches of snow on average near the ski resorts. Jackson Hole up here, which, like, if you think about the way that the wind goes, it's trying to go right, but it hits the mountains, and so it doesn't really go because it's going towards the poles. Like Jackson Hole up there gets 458 inches, but like compare that to Colorado, which is like a ski mecca, and Colorado's in the 200s. Now Yellowstone actually gets over 150, and I think a lot of that is related to the evaporation of water out of the Great Salt Lake. Like I said, it's very large, so it's very visible on the map. And I think that, like, I might be the first whistleblower who's whistleblowing on water evaporating out of that and causing snow, and us needing that water to be evaporating and causing snow. Like, for like our national security, we need water evaporating and causing water. So like I looked at like the snowiest places in the world, or in the United States, and Erie, Pennsylvania and Rochester, New York are both on that list, and they're both right next to lakes. They're getting lake effect snow. So there's Lake Ontario here, and I can't remember which lake it is here, but that's where the Great Lakes is. And that's not the highest elevation, and neither is Flagstaff. But Flagstaff gets a lot of snow, and I think that might be snow related to the Grand Canyon and things like that. So like, I think we all need to recognize that snow comes from somewhere, and it's from evaporating water. And we need water to be evaporating, but once that water is not evaporating anymore, we're in danger. And that's why we need to have a giant Great Salt Lake #2 that's like twice as big as this, and then we need to build mountains all around it so we can pull down the snow. And I don't think those mountains need to be gigantic. I think like if like before, when I was thinking 30,000 feet tall mountains, it's because it was for fun. But like 9,000 feet tall mountains are big enough, like especially if there are multiple of them like spread out, so that the wind is getting shot up by them in multiple locations. I'm still trying to figure out what would happen if we took the entire military, and we took the Canadian military too, because Canada decided to be part of the United States, and we pumped water because we replaced the propellers with impellers. And we built this docking station in like on land, like but we dug deep so the water would come inland, and then we pumped water out to the Mojave Desert. And what would happen? And like what's confusing me is I've been reading about like the Santa Ana winds coming off of the mountains in Los Angeles, and like, but then I've also been reading about like high pressure goes to low pressure. So like there is like a desire to go up of wind, like it wants to go to a higher elevation because there's more space there or whatever. It's less congested for the atoms. And so like I'm confused about what would happen to the wind here or to the water here, because like I see this very windy coming in off of Las Vegas, like right there, and then I think it's hitting like Mount Whitney and stuff like that, and I think that the wind wants to go down. But then it would be hitting this water, and like I don't know what would happen, because like it looks like what happens all the time is that there's this air coming off of the Gulf of, or like this whatever it's called, Baja California, and then like it's coming in, and like, so where we were talking about building mountains and building this Camp Izus, like would be like right here, which that would get rained on from here. Like I'm pretty certain about it, but I also think that like over here would get rained on, and here would get rained on. I think there'd be rain everywhere from it. But I still think that like it wants something to bring it down. Like it needs some like mountain type thing. And so like we'd build a mountain here, we'd build a mountain in Page, Arizona. And I think like the capital of the United States would eventually be Moab, Utah, ideally. I would love to do it in Moab. Like build like one big ass city that's like it's after we've done a few practice cities, and then Moab is like the ultimate, like which would be in Canyonlands near Needles. Like, well, Needles is in Canyonlands. I don't know where we'd choose to do it, but we'd build a Mount Maya. And so, but I think we would call that one Udatos, which is Greek for water. Yeah, like I think like if we need to build it that big, which means like it needs to be huge. And I think that I think that we have this could be the snowiest place in the world, even though this says the winds come this way. I'm telling you, the winds, like apparently underneath Cincinnati, people built tunnels and they had to build them with arches. So it does make sense that like if you're building a structure that's like made out of trash and dirt and wood, that you would want tunnels that are shaped like that inside. And I think that arches are doable. I mean, Ibn Tulun used to do it a lot like a million years ago. And I do think like that sort of stuff's hard, the spiral staircase, which would be cool going down that main structure. So, and you can put this stuff inside of that to like make it look more cool. Like, I mean, you could take inspiration from that, but that takes more materials. I don't know. What I'm actually talking about is like, what happens if we decide Canada becomes part of the United States? How do we do it? Well, I think what we'd say is the United States now needs 556 Congress people, so there are more districts for Congress, but we would no longer have state senators at all. And instead of state senators, we would have Congress people. And so they would be responsible for both local budgeting and federal budgeting. And so I don't know exactly how that works. And we would end up with 300 senators, which means we wouldn't have 2 per state in the United States, which means it might be more fair. Because like the senators representation is very disproportional. But I say here that like we'll give Canada extra senators, and what do senators have power over? Making of federal laws. And am I making federal laws myself? I am, but at some point, like I'm not going to be making federal laws, and the senators will be making federal laws after like I've put my stamp of approval on the criminal laws and whatever laws we deem necessary from that level. But I do think that we need like more organization and top-down like planning and execution, like especially in the city planning and like real estate planning department. And like clearly what I'm talking about is taking a massive amount of real estate from the mafia. Like you won't believe how much real estate I will take from the mafia. And like, is that for me? Like, I'm sure a lot of people are going, this is crazy. Like you're giving that guy too much stuff. Like I'm never going to even visit like most of my real estate. Like I'm going to have too much, but like I have to figure out how to use it to the best benefit of the people of Canada and the United States. So Canada has that many federal judges. Like I don't know how to deal with judges because like there are like federal and district, and then there's like magistrates, and there's like justice of the pieces. And like I think like I've talked about having reality TV shows be how we choose judges, and I think we need to do that. We need to put them on reality TV shows. But like I also think we have to put these Congress people on. So I've been pretty certain that you guys should Nobel Prize me for my discovery that cosmic radiation is how you evaporate water, and it's how you can desalinate water. And what happened is I started thinking about the pyramids in Egypt, and I was like, I guarantee you that changed the weather. Like, I think that's the purpose of the pyramids of Egypt. And I started thinking about the farmland in Egypt, and I started thinking about where it's located. But here's Cairo right here on the map. And like, this is like, the prevailing winds bring the air off the Mediterranean south, because here's the Mediterranean Sea, and here's the farmland. So like here are the pyramids right here, and I think that clearly like the pyramids would disrupt the air and make it rain. So like, but what happened is I realized that like my idea already won a Nobel Prize, and it was by this guy Charles Wilson, and he elucidated the ability of electrically charged particles to stimulate precipitation. Like basically, he had like a hot plate and a cold plate, and like he had a chamber, and he had the hot and the cold interact, and he also messed with electrical fields. And the Earth's poles have a strong electric field, specifically known as the ambipolar electric field. And like I think that what we've really discovered like throughout this is that moisture in the air changes the like electrical nature of particles, like of those molecules, because like that sort of stuff, like it can cause pulls in certain directions. And like I talked about how like the winds are going to be pulling kind of towards the poles a little bit. They kind of go that way. But like there are other factors that affect the wind, such as like a big mountain. Like it will like kind of like the wind just kind of like flows with the rest of the wind. Like the wind has a nature. It's kind of like a river. Like when they're talking about like the nature of wind to go from high pressure to low pressure, like for me, that's immediately like, oh, because water. But wait, this isn't water. This is wind. That principle applies to everything, not just to water. Because like I'd thought about it a lot for damming. And so like about creating high pressure so that it will want to go towards lower pressure through something that like is like a turbine. Congratulations for the Nobel Prize, me. Nope, actually, like this stuff is supposed to be something that like everyone knows. But no one. The reason I mentioned that like I now have scientific evidence that moisture in the air changes the charge of the particles, I have evidence that like if I built a giant salt lake in the Mojave Desert, that it would change the nature of the wind because it's so dry out there that like the cosmic radiation's hitting dirt. And now instead, like the cosmic radiation, like would be hitting water, salt water, and causing ionization. So it would cause like changes the states of the particles, and so like the molecules would be more wet, and so the winds that normally have a certain nature as a result of which are the Santa Ana winds going into Los Angeles, might have a different nature. They might have a different pool because they might be more charged, I think. Yeah, I'm not sure. But what I do know is that even if like the prevailing winds become more prevalent towards Utah and towards Las Vegas as a result of the moisture in the air, I still think that like there will be water everywhere if there's a giant salt lake in the middle of the Mojave Desert. So Los Angeles would get dumped on, and like I think that like the Los Angeles water supply would be very, very, very taken care of. But even though we'd have to build like our nightmare, which is a freshwater crossing here. Like that's really like the most difficult part of the project is like building a freshwater crossing over the salt water. Because I think you want to go over it. Because I think the salt water is going to be bigger. I don't know. Like it's a nightmare because we do get fresh water from Lake Mead to Los Angeles and we have to still get it there. So like that's why it's a hard engineering project especially. I think that Texas is such a big state that like if you look up droughts, then what you'll find out is that Texas doesn't have drought problems because most of Texas doesn't, but certain parts do. And I've been thinking about wind, and I've been thinking about like the way that like it's very windy on the near the ocean. It tends to be, but if it isn't, I think what's happening is like the water is getting hit and it's causing evaporation. And like, cause like windiness like decreases evaporation, supposedly. But like once it's already evaporated, then it gets very windy because it's moving that water, air stuff. But like while it's coming out of the water into the air, it's not as windy. Because right now where I live, it's not windy, but it's like the windiest place ever because it's right next to a giant reservoir. And I think that that's the same thing with the ocean. So I was thinking like the Bandera and 1604 area would be a good place to build a very large structure, like in between Bandera and San Antonio. I've been thinking Leon Springs would be a good place to build a structure. I've been thinking Kerrville, like in between Kerrville and Fredericksburg, would be a good place. I think like anywhere like on the way to Los Maples from Kerrville would be a great place. It's got a pretty high elevation. I think probably Waco, Texas would be a good place to build a structure because like it's right on the Brazos River. The Brazos runs to College Station, so College Station could be a good place to build one. In fact, College Station would probably be the best place to build one because then it would rain in Waco. Like I think that we have enough water out there, but I do think that like they're good places to put population centers. Like if you want to put a bunch of people somewhere and you want to have it be able to handle the large capacity of people, put them like in that area. But that area is very easy to build out of. And that's what I was thinking is there's a lot of construction companies like right in this little circle. And so, yeah, like there's a reservoir over there. So like if it rains a lot, then it's a good place to store water. That's the water for all of San Antonio. And this water, the Brazos River, goes to Houston. Houston, I think, like is fine for water, but I think that like if we want to build population centers, we might want to build them outside of Houston because like Houston, like you would have to like demolish it. Like Houston's like a million houses. Like there's nothing vertical about Houston except for downtown Houston. Like it does not care. Like Houston is assuming that Texas is the biggest state ever and you will never run out of land. But Houston also is assuming you'll never run out. I've been talking about where I'd build pyramids in Texas and I'd build them on the Edwards Aquifer. But where I've really seen water problems is at Mission San Juan, I think. Because there's the river right there, and the river's like drying up. Like there's like no river there. There is a river in some parts, but then it dries up in some parts. And okay, did I find a dildo there? Yeah, that's the real problem with mission. Like no one wants to hurt the missions because they're so beautiful. That's Mission Espada, which I call it Casa Espada, because people used to live there, and like it was like a school area, and like I do love the mission so much. And this is like a walking area along the Riverwalk that could be developed very, very well. And like could be like a walking community, but and because like once you get to the Riverwalk down here, that's like the coolest part of the Riverwalk, in my opinion. Like the south side of the Riverwalk, like where they have that speakeasy, like the bar with no signs, and then there's like there's a coffee shop, like and you can take the Riverwalk all the way downtown. Like it's like the sickest area of San Antonio. But like the problem is this area is filled with dildos and like the river's drying up. And so it would be nice to build a pyramid there, like probably somewhere around Casa Espada or Mission Espada. But that would be like a community, like that'd be a walled city. It'd be a Rivendell. Like that I like that because like it's a brown area, and like I do want to like develop a brown area super sick because like I keep talking about like white areas like well actually I mean I guess it's not a white area, that's an Indian. I guess Grand Canyon. I don't know what I've been. Las Vegas is probably no Las Vegas. Never mind. I am developing ethnically diverse areas. That's like what I'm trying to go for. And apparently, everywhere I've thought to develop was actually ethnic. I wasn't even thinking about it, but I do know that's like a lot of brown people down there, and like I think that area is super sick. So like I like when like a large population of brown people are around like a super sick area that like we develop. All right, so I've been talking about having Canada conquer us, or like having us conquer Canada, and I've been trying to figure out how it works. and how Congress people work, because I want to get rid of state senators because it's too confusing. Like, just let the Congress people be state senators and have more Congress people. But I've been thinking about what people do, and there are 300 senators in this plan, and like I think that's the confusing part about that, is because I've been thinking that like there are 150 senators in Las Vegas, which is the capital, and then there are 150 senators that live in the local districts, and each senator has a partner that is their pair, like that is their side. They work with someone, and those people have a conference room set up, like in both sides, and so they aren't necessarily representing an entire state, but they would be representing an entire very large part of the state. But really, like there might be like 4 senators from Los Angeles, because there are 2 that live in Los Angeles and there are 2 that live in Las Vegas. But because like, and then I thought about the same thing of doing the same thing with Congress, because there are that many people there, and because. Because I'm trying to figure out like the amount of senators and the amount of Congress people and what their roles are, because we'd be not doing state senators anymore. And so like, but like the Congress is more about like local financing, like getting money for like the sewer system in your city, or getting money for like solar panels for like this building project. But really, like the senators would be involved with major project financing, like large projects. And they would be in charge of like regional financing projects, like projects that are big enough, like probably like road type stuff, like Department of Transportation type road stuff. But they would also oversee the police force, kind of like the Senate Judiciary Committee. They'd oversee the Bank of America, which would be like overseeing the Fed. They'd be overseeing oil companies, because I think we're going to be in charge of a lot of oil companies. They'd have auditing power over the government, and they'd have power to change the Constitution, and then they have power over public land regulation. So I would also have the ability to have power over public land and eminent domain, because the king can kind of do whatever. But like the president has veto power, and I have veto power over the president. But generally, I think I'll just stay out of it completely. Because if I do get involved, then everyone's going to be like, what? Like, I'd have to talk about it like for like my entire life. And I don't want to get involved with fights that like are like, I really don't want to, I don't like arguing with people generally. But like but I do have that power, because like that's kind of like the way that the king. I just want to point out a few more things about my plan to let Canada conquer the United States. So many of them live next to the border. And I think that means that Canada really would not want to fight a war with the United States. And the reality is, like, don't make the United States too desperate, and because they will if they're desperate. And Canada is who the United States oil depends on. But at the same time, I think like the big thing Canadians should be concerned about in the short term is like, is everyone going to move to my country? Is Canada going to be overwhelmed with new citizens because the United States is part of Canada? And what I'll tell you is that Canada is cold. And like, I think the more real situation over time is that Canadians would be moving to the United States and living in places like Page, Arizona, the Grand Canyon, Moab, Arizona, like Kerrville, Texas, Waco, Texas, College Station, Texas, like the Death Valley area, Las Vegas. I don't know how much I don't know how big we can build Los Angeles, but I would like to do Los Angeles a little more efficient. And so, I think, and plus there's the Mojave Desert. So like what I'm planning on doing no matter what is using Canadian oil to build these projects. And like if Canada becomes a part of the United States, then Canada gets to be someone who benefits from like my projects. And so like, I mean, the reality is I'm planning on moving a lot of people to the United States that aren't Canadian. Because like I can do deals with like Arabs and with Asians and with Europeans, and I can build in the United States for their populations. Like if I'm building very efficiently, but like I could also definitely like have more Canadians there, and and that's the real situation there. but like I'm not planning on like massively like increasing Canada's population, because like I need to have a way of generating electricity. And like right now I've got Death Valley, and like I see that as a solar farm heaven. And like, I mean, turn off the sphere, and next thing you know, you got 21,000 people's homes taken care of. And so like I plan on like massively increasing the Hoover Dam's production and adding more dams. And so like as far as electricity, I'm the spot. And like I think that like I don't want to go through Canada's oil. I want to do a lot of corn type farming, and I know Canada does a lot of farming. And so like I want Canada to continue doing that farming, and I want to do a lot of research into farming. I want to spend money on Canada, but like I'm not planning on moving people there. So I'm running for president, like vowing to take down organized crime, because like it's actually that serious. Like all these gangsters, like look at these lyrics. Like I got shooters dressed in camo. Like the reason I thought about this is because Rick Ross was talking about how he's got shooters out the D League or something like that. And I was like I decided to look up whether or not Drake has shooters. This guy in his song has shooters in New York, and he's got shooters across the border. And he calls Drake and tells Drake to do the hit. And Beyonce ain't no gang, but she got shooters, which is crazy to me. Lil Durk is dead and he has shooters. 21 Savage obviously has shooters. Like I know a guy named Shooter, and he was actually like charged with shooting someone in the park in downtown Colorado Springs. So Future and Metro Boomin have shooters. Offset, my shooters be begging, please. They're ready to whack a nigga. I'm raffling off your hoe like a raffle, nigga. I can't remember the song, but like, do I want them playing music in Vegas? No. Like, will I confiscate their property, like everything they own, and make sure they are like bankrupt, like not living in a mansion, bankrupt, at a minimum, like with no evidence whatsoever. The moment I become president. Yes, like Quavo would have no money, and everyone that like is gang affiliated who's like a millionaire that's like a rapper would have no money. I would just take all their sports cars, and then I would have to like go and figure out how to equip them with electric motors. And I think that like it wouldn't be that I think they would probably be like the most efficient vehicles in the world, because they're so lightweight, and like I don't have to make them super fast. But yeah, so do we have a problem with our society where like the most popular people in the world talk about their shooters? That's like I would never let like rappers that work for me like at Universal Music, the only record label, like talk about their shooters. Like if you're talking about your shooters, no. Like, and it's the same thing with 42 Doug or whatever his name is. He's got 4Gang. Yeah, I would take all their money, take all their cars. We have a problem of supercars in the United States and in the world. And if I take over and I become a fascist and I say, I can take your supercar, and also vehicles like this, which is like, I think that's a Rolls-Royce Coleman. I don't even know what that is. Like, if you've heard of Maybach music, like it's like 12 miles per gallon in the city. So, like, I think that what happens is, we will pay you $50,000 for your car, and you're not, or you can keep it as like a museum, like art piece, but you're not allowed to drive it. And if you're caught driving it and it's not modified, then you'll get it towed. Like it will get confiscated. You won't get $50,000. So like when we confiscate them, like I thought about it, and I don't want to build like an 8,000 car parking garage or like a 30,000 car parking garage, because I don't know how to keep them out in the sun, and I don't know what to do with them. And so my opinion is that most of them we just send back to the factory, like if they're willing to do it. But I don't know if their factory has the capabilities to do it. Like I don't know if they have the infrastructure. Like we might like send them to our factory, and our factory specializes in converting like inefficient vehicles to efficient vehicles. So we put in a smaller engine. Like we might make it like a hybrid where it's a plug-in electric engine combined with like a gas engine, or we might put in like a 4-cylinder engine in there, but probably we'll make it electric. and we'll probably add like self-driving car type features. The thing is, like, I don't know if our society's ready for self-driving cars because we can't afford it. And like, I think that like putting in like computers like are good to do, like in case we want to be able to do something in the future. But like how you put in computers matters, and that's why like China wanting to like do our computers like scares me, because like look at what just happened with Korea, and like with Kia getting hacked, and it turning out that like in their database they've got like geo IP locations of like where the drivers are going, so people can figure out the coordinates of where someone is, like by hacking Kia. Like to me that's like crazy. Like to me that's like wow, I can't believe how cool it is that I took out my GPS chip in the Ford, which like I like that was a nice thing, you could take it out. So yeah, we take these, we convert them to electric vehicles. Can you buy it back? Yes, but like you might have to buy it back for a lot more. Like we'd probably be like, well, you paid us $50,000 for it, or we paid you $50,000 for it. So like when you get to buy it back, it's $250,000 or something like that, or $200,000. But